That's fine.
Okay. All right. So I'll start off with what is basically the core of the product, which for us, oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong account here. Give me 1 second. Which is going to simply just be, kill some screens here. All right, there you go. All right, okay. All right, so I'll focus with what is basically, the core of our product, which is what we call conversations. The way that we simply look at it, to keep it really, really easy, is all marketing that we do generates 3 primary types of inquiries, which is going to be a call, a text, or an email. We're really good about basically tracking emails or form fills, basically, if you kind of think about it that way, any kind of form that someone fills out, because there's some history to that. It gets dropped into your CRM automatically and does all those things. Where things get difficult is on the phone call and the text, which arguably are the highest intent kind of leads that are going to come in. The issue, not just in real estate, but just in general in today's day and age, is that most of us are only using our mobile phone for basically everything. And so what happens is that the cell phone is just getting blown up with all kinds of different phone calls. So we stop basically answering. At the same time, it's counterintuitive to what we as consumers are doing now. Since we live in a world of instant gratification, we no longer leave voicemails. We don't have the patience anymore. So when we make an inquiry with a business, we want an answer right away. If that person doesn't answer, we don't bother leaving a voicemail. We just hang up and call the next business, because we're trying to go for the path of least resistance, because we're used to all of the other experiences in our lives to be able to get whatever we want instantly, basically, and pretty much on demand. So the way that Call Action tries to handle this is we base everything around what we call conversations. Right. So conversations are based on what we call campaigns. So a campaign is any kind of marketing campaign that you are doing. Those marketing campaigns will generate those 3 primary types of inquiries. So I'm going to show you kind of an end-to-end here in Call Action, which, because I use my own product, this is the easiest way for me to show you everything that is basically happening. All of this is 100% mobile responsive. So this is our desktop version, but this is what it looks like on mobile. So if I just kind of swing this over, it's the same exact website. And we do this very purposely because we don't want anyone to have to learn 2 types of software. And what I mean by that is using the Boomtown mobile app is totally different than using Boomtown desktop. And therefore, basically, you're really learning 2 types of software versus just one. This is basically the same across the board. So if we take a look here, as I mentioned, there's a couple different types of inquiries. There's either a call, text, or an email. So in Call Action, every Call Action phone number comes with a dedicated email address so that you could track all 3 types of communication on a campaign level. So that's how basically this information comes into Call Action. So this case, I have a dedicated phone number. The email lead comes in and we parse that information. So you can see leads from any source directly in Call Action. This is all just done through basically an email forwarding rule. When the lead comes in, we parse or extract the information, no different than what you're already used to in Boomtown if you forward a lead into Boomtown. What is different with Call Action is that we're going to start doing some checks in here in real time. So we're going to tell you what kind of phone number is it, and is it even valid? So we're going to tell you landline, voice over IP, or valid phone number. We're going to tell you who the carrier is. This is a little bit important because if you see there's a difference between a customer that has a Cricket phone number versus, a Verizon account, basically. Some of the other stuff we'll start doing is we're going to start pulling in names that are associated with that phone number. So we're doing a reverse data append. You may have used companies like LexisNexis or Intellius or White Pages Pro or anything like that and done data appends. Well, we do all of that all in real time. So we're going to try and find names, social profiles, and everything else. The goal out of all of this is to turn back around and give you some data insights so that you could quickly build rapport and know the customer that you're dealing with. Probably the most powerful thing, I think personally, is that we're also going to try and find addresses that are related to that person. So as an example, if you run a phone number on your yard sign, a call action phone number, and when that sign first goes up, oftentimes that property hasn't hit the MLS yet. So basically you're going to get phone calls, and those phone calls oftentimes are nosy neighbors. So they'll say, hey, I saw you have a new listing on 20th Street. Can you tell me what the price is? And then you tell them, oh, it's $400,000. And they go, oh, okay, thanks. It's a little bit out of my price range. Well, what we're trying to do is we're going to give you a map search so that you can easily compare it against where your existing listing is in that particular scenario. Give you a street view. We're going to try and find the property. We give you a link to be able to see if that property that they're currently in is actively listed for sale on Zillow and what the Zestimate is. This would be good for your rehabs and your flips too if you're getting inquiries from your direct mail pieces, because now you have some quick baselines. Then if we do find the address of that person who is calling you, we're going to try and give you all of their property data, okay, including history, mortgage amount, all of that stuff, all in real time. This is all pushed into Boomtown, into the notes section. So going back to my example, let's say that person was on 20th and your listing is on 80 20th Street and this person's on 127. Now, instead of thinking that that was a crappy buyer, we know that that's really a nosy neighbor. And what we're able to do is to go door knock that person, drop off a CMA, maybe use a script, something that says, oh, hi, this is Adam. I just recently listed your neighbor's house.
Gentry, I'm on a call. I'm working.
For $400,000. And listed a house, your neighbor's house for $400,000. When I sell this home, it's going to impact the value of your home. Here's a full report that we've prepared for you and your neighbors. Let me know if you have any questions. And by the way, is it okay if I circle back once we get this property sold to tell you what the final sales price was? Most of the time that owner is going to say yes, because the whole reason why they inquired in the first place is that they may be thinking about selling in the future. And so it's a really quick way to start generating additional listings in the area and be hunting with a sniper rifle. Some of the other interesting stuff that you can do with this is you can parse those leads out and build Facebook custom audiences off of captured phone calls, because you can upload the mobile numbers directly into Facebook. And we've built some custom Zapier integrations where you can do that dynamically in real time. Take offline experiences, phone calls and text messages, upload that into Facebook as a custom audience, and then continue to retarget that person basically, so that way you become omnipresent in that customer's life. So that's kind of what happens here. So then if we kind of keep going down this conversation view, the lead comes in. What we do is we automatically assign a custom drip campaign. And I'll show you our drip campaigns here in a second. They're totally different than Boomtown or anybody else because of our scheduling and the types of messages. But I'll just kind of walk you through the first kind of an overview here. So we send a couple text messages. Here we do ringless voicemail. In this case, her voicemail was full, so we couldn't connect basically to the voicemail. We respond, keeps basically running, and then she responds. And once they respond, what happened is call action pauses the campaign instead of completely stops it. And the reason why we do this is that this gives you the ability to use campaigns that are for past customers to nurture leads and things like that, where you might have a quick interaction, but then you want to keep the same campaign running, so you can hit resume and keep that campaign running instead of basically having to create a whole brand new campaign and start over. So paused it, and here I jumped straight into that conversation. So it is totally seamless for the consumer at the other end, which if you've used other services, Agentology or Rockerbox or any of those third-party kind of services, you know that the breakdown is always in the handoff of the lead. So in this case, what we're trying to do is not have a handoff issue, because when the consumer responds, it's going directly to the agent. So now basically we just have a normal conversation. None of this really matters, with the exception that it's all being synced into Boomtown. Now, when a call happens, in this case, this was an outbound phone call, but this works on both inbound and outbound. Call action records the phone calls, and then we can transcribe the entire phone call into text. And then that is also pushed into the notes in Boomtown, completely eliminating all of the data entry, all of the note taking from the agents, which most agents and most businesses as a whole claim that they spend a couple hours a day just doing kind of data entry into CRMs and systems like that. So our goal is to try and eliminate as much of that as possible. Also, you get the full context of what's happening instead of, you know, your agent's typical notes that might be something like spoke to customer, where there's no context and really there's no value in that, even that note in the CRM. So, so inbound, outbound calls, all basically kind of in there. Now, where I think the most valuable thing in call action is this, is that after we have these kind of conversations, if we think of leads, they're going to fall into two buckets. I'm going to call it hot or cold. Whatever your definition of those two is, doesn't matter. But the reality is that 5 to 10% of leads are going to be hot, meaning they'll get in the car, they're going to get pre-qualified, whatever your definition of hot is. 90% of leads to 95% of leads are going to require future follow-up. And what we know just in general with lead follow-up is that every lead, every time that you actually want to connect with them, takes on average between 6 to 10 attempts before you actually get a hold of someone. So one lead generates, let's just call it 6 activities. 100 leads generates 600 follow-up activities. If you're giving an agent 50 leads a month, that's 300 activities the first month. Some of those leads, 5% are going to convert, so they're going to be in a deal, but then you're going to have 270 follow-up attempts for the following month on the remaining 95% of those leads. And then you're giving them another 50 leads, so then they have another 300 attempts. So now you're at 500 or 600 follow-up attempts. By month 3 or 4, now all of a sudden you're at thousands of follow-up attempts, or basically a giant overdue task list, and that frustrates the people. So in call action, the way we try and handle that is really simple. Instead of scheduling a task in a CRM and your agent having to log in and grind through the CRM by grinding through a task list, what we try and tell them to do is that they just go here into actions. If the guy said, call me in 3 months, you just put him on a follow-up in 3-month campaign. That campaign includes the voicemail drops, video texts, could include email. And what that does, it technically performs those tasks that agent would be grinding through the CRM, and just does it automatically. So even if the agent completely forgets about the lead, in the future, that campaign will kick in again, and then they're going to respond again, and you're always keeping your contacts in conversation. You have no leads that are going stale, basically. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
So what we're trying to do, we call it ICON, which is inquiry, conversation, outcome, and nurture. We look at it as a big circle, and all we're doing is just going around that circle. We try and generate an inquiry, do the follow-up to get to a conversation. At the end of that conversation, there's an outcome that we need to nurture until they inquire again to have another conversation. And we do all of that via automation, except the conversation part, because salespeople are the ones that should be having the conversation, because that is what we're best at. And there are some companies out there that are trying to carry the conversation through AI.
Right.
But that doesn't make sense, because if you think about how complicated and convoluted language is, if I just said the word hi or hey, Now, if I'm trying to use AI to translate what the word hey means, there's a very big difference between hey versus hey versus hey, right? Same word. Now, in text, most AI is not going to read, is it in all caps? Is it in lower caps? Does it have a smiley face after it? And so what we feel like is that salespeople need to be the first point of that conversation, because that's where we can build rapport and build trust and show our knowledge, and AI cannot do that. So we want to eliminate all of the other tasks and keep agents just having what we call conversations. So that's basically it here. Call, pretty simple. They hit the call button. Basically text, send a text message, because this is all of the communication. We have some nice little shortcuts in here. They can create canned responses. So text messages that you do over and over and over, you can easily basically save those messages. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but I'll use even a personal example, which for me basically is this one with my calendar and my Zoom links. I'd probably send this text message 100 times a month, and it would take me 30 seconds every time. And so if I do 100 times 30 seconds, all of a sudden that's 30 minutes of my time per month off of one text message. When you start to multiply that times multiple text messages, this can equal hours of your time. And when you start basically eliminating all of the data entry of the notes, because everything is syncing over in real time, then you have 20 hours a month that is basically saved, which basically means you have more free time. You're taking away the task that burns out the agents, and you keep them in conversations which they like, because agents love selling. Because if you're a high D or a high I, you're basically people and not process people. So, so pretty straightforward there. On mobile, it just looks like this. So again, I can have that conversation. I want to assign the text. I just basically apply the drip, and that is basically it. So I'll go into what the drip campaigns look like, because that is where we're really different than everybody else. So in drip campaigns, this just gives you a dashboard of all your different campaigns and what your conversion rates are. We have a bunch of pre-written drip campaigns already written for agents, because most of them are not going to take the time to do that. So as an example, here's a follow-up in 1 month. This is going to make 15 follow-up attempts over 61 days. Starts in 24 days from now, 9 o'clock in the morning. And then we start mixing up this cadence based on our scheduling. And so we have a bunch of them for just about every different lead source: Boomtown registrations, FISBOs, Zillow nurture leads, Ylopo, high priorities, so on and so forth. So going back to the actual scheduling here, I'll just pull up, let's say this Boomtown one. I think I have one in here that is, where are you at? All right, so we'll just pull up something like this. So this is the interface to build the actual campaigns. Once you've built a campaign, you can share them with other people, and you can export them. So makes, if you get a couple people that are on the same platform, you can start sharing best practices. Mm-hmm. So really simply in here, we have a numeric value for the delay. This is just 1 to 60. Our scheduling, now this is a really, this is a big thing that makes a big difference. So we go down into seconds, and then we have this scheduling that does a specific time. And then we also have specific days of the week, because most drip campaigns are triggered based off of the consumer making some kind of inquiry or change of a tag or something like that. But then everybody else's systems, it's just usually, like if you take Boomtown as example, it's minutes and it's days and it's hours. So the problem with that kind of scheduling is simply this: if I get a lead that comes in at, let's say, 12:52, and I set up my campaign to start 1 day later, they're going to get that text message at 12:52 the next day. But then if I have a follow-up to that campaign for 3 days later, it's still 12:52. So what happens, they always get the text message at the same exact time because they're working on a 24-hour clock. Part of delivering messaging and having it convert at a really high level is that we need to deliver the message at the right time. So we like to use our scheduling something like this, because let's say if I get a lead that comes in on a Tuesday, and maybe on Friday, because I noted it was a buyer lead, I want to send them a text message that says, hey, I hope you're having a good Friday. By the way, if you're going to go out and look at some homes this weekend, here's a link to all of our open houses. And that could be a deep link to your Boomtown website for open houses searches pre-done. If I send that on a Friday, that's the right message to the right person at the right time. And you can't do that with other systems. Now, if I change back to, let's say, a Monday follow-up after that Friday one and go, hey, I hope you had a great weekend. Did you look at anything over the weekend? Can I help you with basically any information about any properties? That becomes really, really powerful. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so lead comes in. Our message types is also totally different. Most systems are going to send a text message, maybe an email, and maybe a voicemail drop. So in our case, we do a bunch of different things because what we're trying to do is create authentic automation. We want it to really feel like it's you who's the one doing the outreach, because when that consumer responds, it's going directly to the agent. So they should never know that it was automation to begin with. So in this case, we do something that's called an audio text. This is a text message with an audio file attachment. You may have sent, like on your iPhone, a voice note to someone where you text a voice note, they press play and they can listen to it. Also do it on Facebook. So we can do that through call action. It's a neat pattern interrupt because when they see the file, they press connect or press play. And when they hear that, they're hearing your voice basically. And that creates much more connection because your intonation, your excitement in your voice and all of that stuff, the cadence is what most people respond to. And not necessarily the words that are said.
Right.
Call Connect. This is a newer product. It's still kind of in beta, so that's why it's showing up in my thing. But what this allows you to do is build a drip campaign. And what we're trying to do is take away the agent's aversion to dialing the phone. Yeah. And when you use Call Connect, what this is going to do is it's going to automatically call that agent at that scheduled time. When they pick up the phone, it's going to say connecting you to, and it gives them the information of the person that we're dialing on the outbound. So it forces the phone call that basically happened. What we have planned for this is that if they press 2 or decline that call, we're going to start giving you reporting so that way you can hold your agents accountable or salespeople accountable. We do some email. It's not our primary focus. We think your CRM should be sending email. The way that we basically do email is that we will log into your personal Gmail account, and we like to send email, not these beautiful HTML formatted kind of things, but really short emails that just basically say, hey, it's Adam. Just wanted to touch base. I sent you a text yesterday. Give me a call when you have a chance. And we like to put in there, sent from my iPhone, because what we want them to think is that you're on your phone. And if they get that email, we want them to basically hit the call button and call right back. Right. And so your real email, we think, should go out from your CRM because we're trying to create conversations, which is two-way and asynchronous communication. Email image, this is where we take that parsed email, make a photocopy of it, like what you saw in the conversation, and we actually text that back to the person that sent the inquiry. Now, we have a couple different use cases for this. We originally created this for basically Realtor.com leads and for Zillow leads, because oftentimes you would get an email inquiry and you would say, hey, I'm calling you about your inquiry. And the person would say, which property was it? Or I never submitted anything or anything like that. So what we're basically doing is we're taking a copy of that and sending it back to the customer. Okay. So the other version of this that we've kind of created over time is a recruiting mechanism and a feedback mechanism for basically your property showing. So we have some agents where what we've done, we've created a campaign, which is a call action phone number and an email. And they set up their Supra lockbox showings to send an email alert to that call action phone number. Call action extracts the information, which is going to contain the agent's information who's showing you their property. And we send them back the image of the email that we received from Supra so that they see the property address. And we say, hey, please give us back some feedback on the property you just showed for us. So it looks like you just took a screenshot on your phone and texted it back to them. Now, the advantage of that, A, we're trying to get feedback for our sellers, but B, we start to convert that over into basically a recruiting mechanism. Because at that point, maybe a week later, we'll send a random text message to them saying, hey, thanks for showing my property last week. I know you're an active buyer's agent. Thought you might be interested in this information. It could be a link to Tom Ferry or whatever. Provide something of value to them to start building that relationship. And then you can transition a property showing into a full recruiting campaign. Right. Okay. Image text call action allows you to text to the consumer text messages with image attachments. So in this, what we like to do in some of our text campaigns is going to say something like, hey, I'm trying to give you 5-star service. And then we'll include an image basically of our reviews. So in this case, maybe like your Zillow reviews, showing social proof that you're basically providing 5-star service to other customers. And so that's been really powerful. We also have done this for Zillow, where because of the CSAT score now, within 24 hours, we send back basically a copy of the review and say, thanks, thanks for inquiring. I was trying to give you 5-star service. Reviews are important to us. Zillow is going to be contacting you. So we're trying to basically up that score on CSAT. Okay. So image text, really powerful. Text only is just a regular text. Text reminder, this is where we've taken the concept of the task list, which is normally inside of the CRM. And most agents are going to get overwhelmed by that because it's really big and it just looks like a lot of work to begin with. So what we've done is we basically created something that's called a text reminder. And when you put this into a campaign flow, it actually sends a text message to the agent, and the reminder is whatever you want them to do for that one lead. So instead of having them look at a task list and try and power through, they get one text message that says, call this guy from a week ago today. And that way it feels more achievable. And if they're not sitting in front of the computer, they're always going to get on their cell phone. It's easy for them to just hit redial, call that consumer directly. Vcard is our contact information. So if you have your cell phone and you share all of your contact info with someone, we actually deliver those. We allow you to build custom ones. This is important because we put in all of the different phone numbers, your Boomtown phone number, the office number, their personal cell phone, and their call action number. So if the consumer downloads that, when you call from any one of those numbers, the caller ID appears. And when the caller ID appears, then what ends up happening basically is every consumer feels basically that they know who's calling, and they tend to answer the phone more. We can send video text, and we do ringless voicemails. Doing a ringless voicemail, pretty easy. Go into audio file, call that number, press 234, record it. File appears here. You can rename them so that you know exactly what it is. And so you can include that into your flows, basically. So going back into the scheduling and what we talked about, trying to create authentic leads or authentic workflows, you'll notice here that we send a second text message just after a few seconds. So 3 minutes after the lead comes in, 17 seconds later, we send another one. And the reason why we do this down to the seconds is because this is how real people text. Is you text in your stream of thought. So it's lots of short messages back to back versus big, long paragraphs of text. And one thing that we notice is when we look at other people's campaigns, and when they're sending out text messages, they're texting out basically emails, like these big giant blocks. And because they're trying to get it all in, and that doesn't look real, and it's kind of frustrating for the person at the other end who's getting those. So by giving you the ability to send kind of these multiple texts that creates that authenticity again and that feeling that there's someone real at the other end. The rest of this is just kind of scheduling. So you can see we mix up the cadence. Again, having the times are important because we go from doing it first thing in the morning, mid-afternoon to late night. The goal of text messaging in any of these outbound drips is that you want to try and deliver messages at the times that people are on their phones. Right. And for everybody else, other than us who are self-employed, that basically means on their break times, because most people can't use their cell phone at work if they got normal jobs. So you want to hit them right before they get to work or as they're walking into work, 10:45 to 11 on their coffee break, lunchtime when they're eating lunch by themselves and looking at their phone, mid-afternoon on that mid-afternoon coffee break, and then at the end of the day. So when you start to deliver messages around those specific times, then what ends up happening is you have a much higher engagement rate because that's when they're on their phone. So super powerful there. Any questions on this stuff so far?
Well, I do have a question. How does that mess with the vitals inside of Boomtown?
So Boomtown doesn't have anything where we can, the API endpoint, I've been talking to Jordan about this. They don't have an API endpoint for us to be able to show all of that stuff. But the way that we look at it is that the vitals, if you really think about it, is to track your agent's activities, not basically automation. So when they're responding back in here and they respond back to a lead, that's going to be posted into a note. If they transition over into sending the text message from their Boomtown phone number, then your vitals is still going to be basically saved in there. But the reality is, our automation, the choice that Jordan and, the guys did, and George, basically, when we talked about doing this API integration with them, is that they didn't want automation to skew the vitals because the agent is not doing that work.
Right.
So that's kind of the way that is looked upon. The other thing that we do too that's different is that you can control your text messages to only send specific days of the week. And we do this because a lot of times we have teams and companies that'll use our services. They give call action to the ISA to give the ISA scale to be able to follow up with the leads. So then you can set so that your automations only run specific days of the week. So most ISAs are only working 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Right. So we don't want their follow-up launching over the weekend, because if the consumer responds over the weekend and the ISA is not there, that falls into dead hands. So we give you some ability to kind of do some different stuff in there. So that's another thing that's different. We also can set a hard end date on our drip campaigns. And I'll show you the reason why you can do that as well. But yeah, that's basically it in this. You can reorder the drip campaign steps, however you want in here. Yeah. Anything else on this, Adam or Brian?
Okay. So as leads are coming into Boomtown, they'll automatically send the call action, but you're still going to need an ISA working inside of, or an agent inside of call action. And it looks like you have to set an action for each individual lead. There's no bulk action that I see here, or is there?
So we don't do anything by bulk. The way that it works basically is really simple. As I mentioned earlier, we associate everything with a campaign. A campaign is a call, a text, or an email.
Right.
So in this case, I would set up, let's just say it's a Boomtown lead. So I would add a phone number that is going to create an auto-generate an email as well. And that search, basically, when I pick that phone number, I'm going to call it a specific campaign. So let's just say it's Boomtown IDX registrations. Mm-hmm. So you have multiple campaigns running at the same time. When I have this, so like, for example, this website lead registration email, when I go to manage, we have settings for basically the phone calls. This is let me close out our stuff here. We have basically the settings that are assigned based when that lead comes in. So let's say if it's an email lead, it's really,
it'll automatically start once
it will automatically start. So the lead goes into Boomtown, registers. We set up a Gmail forwarding rule, which sends it to this email address. And then you assign the campaign that you want. That will start automatically.
Gotcha.
Because our goal is first solve the speed to lead. So everything needs to be automated. And so we're going from inquiry to conversation automatically. When the person responds to that text message, they drop into conversation, they talk to that customer, and then at the end of that, they turn back around and put them right back onto another drip. If you follow that workflow, you never need to do anything in bulk. Does that make sense? The only time you need to do something in bulk is because you haven't followed up with a bunch of leads. So you filter by all those leads and you say, okay, let me take all of these leads that I haven't spoken to in 3 months and let me send them all an email.
Are you, Baylor, you referring to all that data we have?
No, I'm not referring to that previous data at all. I'm talking about as the data grows. For example, I mean, we've been generating internet leads at a massive rate for like 10 years.
Yeah.
At one time, I was managing a database over 100,000. That just
Yep.
a lot of labor and manpower that would also have to go behind call action to quarterback a lot of this stuff. As well as, I mean, the automation is good, but to flow in and out of these leads, I mean, I want to try to understand the workflow of the ISA and the just the labor that's going to go into something like this.
So workflow is, let me see here.
Let me ask you a question. Who else at Boomtown is using this at a high level? Like running ISAs, generating maybe 1,000 leads a month. Who's in that scope?
Oh, I mean, Greg Delaire, Treasure Davis, Kyle Whistle. I mean, a bunch of those guys.
I just spoke with Greg yesterday, so I'll probably hit him up.
Okay. Yeah. So let me see here. I'll just kind of, I usually build out some workflows here for some of my customers. So let me just kind of show you. Here's like DJ and Lindsay. They use basically our product too, so you might know them. So let me show you what we did for them. So this was, so in here, okay, lead goes realtor.com. That was their primary lead source going into basically Boomtown Shark Tank. The agent who claims the lead, basically, they claim that lead. When they claim that lead, it hits their Boomtown account, so they get an email notification that goes into call action. Call action basically sends the drip back to that lead and starts that conversation. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah. Let me get a screenshot of this.
Yeah, I'll send them to you. I have a couple of them, so I'll send you a couple of them.
Right.
I'll show you, let's see here, because I have, here's Robert Slack for sake of conversation. He's not a Boomtown customer, but he's a Follow Up Boss customer. So this one, lead comes in, basically the contact, hits Follow Up Boss. This one is probably more accurate to what you guys are doing right now or what you would be doing. This is more of a traditional one. So contact hits basically, gets registered into the CRM. CRM turns back around and it's distributed. So in this case, basically the lead is distributed via, their routing rules. Goes to the agent. Once it hits the agent's account, it hits their call action account. Call action sends the drip back to the contact. And then basically call action syncs the information back into Follow Up Boss. Okay. That makes sense? Okay. If it's a call, then it would be contact would go like this into the call. Call basically assigns the call basically goes to the agent, goes to the call action, syncs back into their Boomtown or into their Follow Up Boss or Boomtown or whatever. It's all the same. So, so the workflow basically ends up being less intensive because the only thing that you're doing is you're only in conversation mode. You're not managing at scale the leads, because if you have the different campaigns preset based on your lead sources, then basically you have the correct associated campaign based on that lead source. So the messaging is correct to begin with as the leads come in. And that's why you would have multiple numbers, but the consumer is always only communicating with the same phone number that they inquired with originally. You're not introducing new numbers. You're always using the same phone number that they use. Your agent will have multiple numbers. So they would be like this, like Facebook Live, clients, my Facebook, my website registration. Most people it's, Boomtown, Zillow, Realtor.com, Facebook leads. That's kind of an idea. And then sign calls. Does that make sense or no?
No, it does.
Okay. So that's basically what we have on there and the way that the drip campaigns work. Now, one thing I talked to Brian about was we have something that's called a text tool. And I'll show you here on my personal account. Text tools are indicated by these little icons that we use. So if I go into manage in here, it's going to pull up the interface. And then I'll just show you in our help docs because it's just easier if I just do it all in real time here in text tool. We have our help docs directly accessible while you're on the pages. So that way just a lot easier to, instead of toggling between the two pages. So text tool, this is a basic example of sign writers. Now, sign writers are still a super valuable way to generate a ton of leads, especially if you are proactively marketing coming soons and things like that, because as the portals are taking all of the lead flow in-house, it's going to become more valuable for agents to maximize the opportunities to generate their own leads across the board. And that's why basically the sign writers become more important for the consumer. They're not feeling when they see something like this, like they're filling out a form, and they can do it with one hand on their cell phone, which is now the primary way that everyone accesses the internet as well. So in this case, let's say you had a sign writer, it looks something like this. What we're gonna do is we use the word address because if you compare, let's say Quickly, VoicePad, any of the other text for info systems that are out there, they give you pre-printed signs with a pre-printed code. The issue with that is someone's got to get in the car and go match those signs and manage all of that stuff. And so it doesn't happen. The way that call action handles this is we give you one sign. It's the same across the board. We use the word address. You could put whatever you want, but I like to use the word address, and here's the reason why. When we use what we call the keyword, which in here at the top, the key is the keyword. So they're going to text the keyword address. We're going to automatically text back this information that says, please text back the house number you're standing in front of. Now we're going to take the address that they're standing in front of, because they know that already, and they'll type in either the street name or whatever combination of this. It does not have to be an exact match. As long as they get something right, either the house address or the street name.
That's smart.
Then they're going to instantly get back their response. Now we like Cal American, this is a Boomtown customer as well. Mm-hmm. This is Jesse Rodriguez and Aaron and all those guys. What we do is we tell everyone, when you have your listing, if you're running them as a coming soon, or if it's already on the MLS, you're going to do a search, find that listing on your Boomtown site, and then you can cut these off, obviously, because if you just do homes and then the last 4 digits here, it's like a short URL, and that'll take you straight to that particular property. You could take an offline experience, customers standing in front of the property, they text, they get back the link, you send them into your Boomtown to ideally get them to register and be on the now bar. Okay, that's the goal, because we don't want the agents to not have to grind the CRM, meaning power through a task list. But what we want them to do is like, hey, I want you to mine that CRM. And what I mean by mining is, if I got a listing on, in a particular city, I need to go into Boomtown, query all of my leads that ever inquired in that same city, get on the phone and basically maybe do a bulk action to those people and say, hey, I've got a new listing that's coming up. That's the difference between mining and grinding. Okay. So that's what we focus on. Now, where call action is totally different is you can actually attach a drip campaign based on the keyword. So I can start an automated follow-up process based on this keyword, and you can have unlimited of these keyword response and drip campaign combinations. That make sense, Adam?
Yeah, just like instead of somebody recording like a 1-800 number or going in and updating information, they are going to have to create for every new listing one of these unique.
Yeah. So usually that, and I'll just show you what this looks like. So let's say you had this one. You're going to have usually a pretty standard format like this.
Right.
So you would go add key, 321 Main Street for sake of conversation. Then I would drop this in here. You're going to update the URL, update the address and bedroom, bathroom price. Like you can put as much or as little as you want in here to make it.
So you're just going and pulling the URL off of the Boomtown link that's tied to that address?
Yep, exactly. Now, we also have this that we call bulk upload. So this is, depending on how savvy your staff is, normally what we've done with everyone is this just becomes part of the listing presentation checklist for your staff. So when they create a new one of them is going to call action, update basically a key. But in here, we allow you to actually do it with a CSV file in bulk too. So if you probably are uploading somehow, that data ends up into a Excel spreadsheet. And if you're a little bit savvy on an Excel spreadsheet, what you're able to basically do is dynamically merge all of the information to create the definitions by themselves. And so then you can just upload and upload Excel spreadsheets. There's only 3 columns, which is key to response. And then do you want to keep that there or do you want to remove it? And that's basically it. So that's the other way that we kind of do that as well. Okay.
What's the training look like on the back end when somebody's massaging this? I know you can't do a lot of one-on-one time, but what?
Yeah, so there's one-on-one time with me, basically. I also have all of our online help docs that are available in here. And when you first create the account, there's basically kind of a guided tour on everything. Usually it's more of a consultation with me to figure out like, what do you want to do first? Like, what's your workflow? Like, give me a problem you want to try and solve. And then we just start tackling one of those at a time. Because using the product, like using this is not necessarily complicated. You just have to wrap your head around, like, what do you want to do with it?
Right.
As an example, in here, like in our help docs, we have something. So like, let's say we have a section in the help docs called workflows. So here's an example. If someone says, well, I want to generate some leads. If they contact me via chat, I'm just going to send them back this and say like, well, here's a way you can generate leads on Craigslist. And what it does, it gives you the entire workflow on what to do. Step 1, 2, 3 shows you the sample ads and shows everything. And then this is how we generate leads on Craigslist for free. Because you can't drop a URL in Craigslist anymore. And we also have this, you can do it on Facebook Marketplace too. And it works great in Facebook Marketplace. So
so you can't drop the link in there, but text the phrase foreclose to that number. So you're using almost like the same technique that you're using off the writer and Craigslist. I like that.
Exactly. And Facebook Marketplace and direct mail pieces inside of open houses. Like,
and the hook is just one image.
You could do one image, leave the price off, leave something off, whatever you want to do. From the marketing point, I've got a private Facebook group that like I just basically dump a bunch of ideas and stuff like that in there and workflows and stuff like that. So there's a lot of conversation around that kind of stuff. We also give you some merge fields that you can use. And this is also in the drip campaign. So we have all these different merge fields that you can use based around time to create very authentic kind of feeling campaigns and stuff like that. So anyway, then the last thing that you have in call action, and so like Kyle Whistle, Greg Delaire, like this is a big thing why they use this, is what we call our lead router phone number. And all of the teams that we work with, this is, one of the primary tools that they're working with. This would be the phone number that's either on the website. Like, for example, we just signed up Jason Jock, he's like Boomtown number 5 or 6 or something like that. You probably know him. He's out of like North Carolina or something. Does that sound familiar, Jason? No?
Not to me.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so
There's a bunch of us originals. I think we
yeah.
were like 25th, 27th person.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Jason, he basically runs a team ridge. And so his thing is, if it's a company originated lead, you owe me a deeper commission split. But he's got an early Boomtown website that's generating a ton of business.
Right.
And what happens is people will go to the website, maybe look at a property, and then they call. And the problem is he was not able to track all of that stuff. So now what he did is he put a call action phone number on there. Because the call action syncs with Boomtown and does a lookup to see if the lead exists. And if it doesn't exist, it creates the lead. Now he's got 100% trackability of phone calls that are coming in. So if he gets a call that comes in through the Boomtown website that wasn't in Boomtown and an agent claims it, now he knows to start going and collecting basically that commission.
Yeah,
Which
I've been there before. Do we get to pick the number, or do we got to use one of your generated numbers? I mean, we just redid all of our signs with new numbers and all that stuff.
You can port them over, but we allow you going forward. You can pick your own phone numbers inside of call action. You can do vanity searches. So what this does here is a couple different things. You can either round robin or basically broadcast or use Boomtown speak Shark Tank a phone call. Okay, call comes in. If I've got multiple agents on my team that I want to give them the shot at these kinds of leads, I basically add them into the queue basically of whoever I want. Oops, sorry here.
What about, so before we had an inbound call that was going to a front desk. The front desk lady was getting their name, their number in case we dropped the call. Right? Build another list for a call center property they're calling on. So we'll get the number that they call in off of, and then we'll export that to dump it into a dialer for ISA to cross scrub to spot check the agent like within 24 hours or something like that.
So the workflow would be different. Call would come in and you would distribute it straight to your agent.
Yeah, I understand that we're skipping the labor piece to it.
Yeah.
The reason for the labor piece was to
Accountability.
a call list.
Well, and tracking.
So
But
yeah, but you could still do that because what will
Right.
end up happening is that you can go back and query the Boomtown for all the leads that came in through this lead source because you can tag them by this campaign.
But what if they don't register? What if I'm just saying, I'm looking at this, if it's a sign call, you just have it routing to buyer agent. So we're broadcasting.
As soon as the call comes in, we create whether that person, the moment that there's 1 second of ring, we've captured that lead and pushed it in Boomtown.
It automatically pushes them into Boomtown and creates an account for that address. Or that phone number.
For that lead, yes.
What if the lead?
wow.
What if the lead isn't registered with Boomtown? It still creates
Still creates it.
just creates a profile with the number or whatever.
Yes.
Associated.
Yeah, and all of that data, appended data, and everything that we find all in real time.
That solves the problem for us.
So now can we dictate where that lead is pushed to versus just giving it to the agent that answers the call? Or does it automatically follow the agent that answered that number? Is it push?
It depends on however you want to use it.
So we can map it any way that we want.
Yeah. What we're trying to do here is, for example, like Greg, the way that he's doing it off of his website calls and all the marketing, everything goes to his ISA, right? So it goes to Pinky. So call comes in, runs through a call action phone number. It eliminates all of the labor from him to create all of those leads, automatically records and transcribes the phone calls that he's having.
Right.
And then he just reassigns it to an agent after the fact.
You know, I was already kind of thinking about this problem last week with, cutting some labor out, but still getting it and doing something with it. Because we set a lot of appointments off our, text to writer stuff, our sign calls, the way that we tracked it and did it before. It was just labor intensive. So
yeah.
And it makes sense. I've texted Greg since I've been on this call. He said he uses it mainly for inbound stuff. He said there's just so much to it, but He
Yep.
said, told me how he has it set up. I helped him set up his call center like 5 years ago, but
Yeah.
like that. So this actually solves a problem I was thinking about this week. Now,
Yeah, I think that's
now
really
let me can the data, it automatically pushes them into Boomtown. So there don't have to be no export.
Right.
All we have to do from a labor standpoint is still cross-check the accountability with the agents, make sure they understand there's a resource center, and then add the only missing piece to this in terms of communication is extracting their email address. If it automatically creates an account off of their phone number or the public record names, we're just going to need an email address. Or does it pull in some generic email address too?
Well, that data append is trying to find email addresses for them.
Right.
And to create the lead in Boomtown, because the email is the primary index key, we basically create a fake email using no reply at their phone number.com.
So we'd have to mine that. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
So that's the way that we solve that, and been solving it for a while, basically. And there's a couple things that you could do. Your labor part that you were talking about, holding the agent accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In call action, what we've done is this too. You can send this lead that comes in through the primary phone number to actually 2 places at the same time.
I'm sorry.
Okay?
You can do what again?
You can send it to 2 places at the same time.
The lead?
Two people at the same time. So in this case, let's just say in your case, let's just, if we use not the router, so not wherever the agent claimed it, and you just leave it the way that you're leaving it right now. Call comes in, we create it into the CRM, your front desk person answers, we took away all the data entry, she assigns it to an agent. Well, that ISA or your front desk person, you can have a drip campaign that starts 3 days later that goes out that says, hi, this is Adam with EXP. A couple of days ago, you called our office in reference to a property. I want to make sure that our agent is taking care of you. Let me know if you have any questions. And so we actually use automation to hold the agents accountable. So just depends on how creative you want to get on that workflow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like automation, but at least you're self-aware to know automation isn't where the conversion is going to happen.
No. I'm automating the task to get you to the conversation. The conversation is what creates the conversation, the conversion.
Right.
You know, like I like the guys from Structurally. I think what they're doing is really cool, and Ojo and all those live chat kind of things and AI chat. But the reality is this. We as salespeople, we've got one shot with every consumer to build rapport and trust. And if you're putting that first opportunity in the hands of automation, you're going to be throwing money away like crazy.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I'm watching a buddy. He's running good chat boxes, and I think he's at an AI convention right now. He's doing well, but he's trying to over optimize and over automate the process. And I'm like,
yeah. And what's going to happen is, if real estate goes down that path, it lowers the value of the agent because you can't answer the right question to show your value.
Right.
Right. Because all of that AI stuff is just going to go, oh, thanks for your inquiry. Are you pre-qualified for a mortgage? Are you this or that? And here's the real kicker when it comes to this. People only inquire when the internet did not answer their question.
Right.
Now, where does AI get the information to answer the question?
The internet.
Right? And I try and tell people, your AI stuff that you guys are trying to do is like this, right? And even at a high level, you know, even with ISAs in a roundabout way, it's the same kind of thing, because if the ISA is not licensed, you can't provide information. But I'll give you a real life example. When do you call your credit card company?
Shit, when I only have problems.
Okay. So when you have a problem, it's because you have a question, right? So the guy, when you call that credit card company, what do they start doing? They start asking you questions. Well, where's the charge happen? What the blah, 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 blah. You spend 20 minutes explaining, you know, that you were in Vegas and whatever else, basically.
Right.
And then you get to the end, you go, okay, well, I gave you all this information, so you're going to reverse the charge. And that credit card company goes, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. I'm going to have to transfer you to the person that can make that decision.
Mhm.
How do you feel as a consumer?
Right.
Pissed, right? You're like, why the hell I just spent 20 minutes? This is what real estate is doing to consumers. We're trying to basically put ourselves at the very end of the transaction when it should be the other way around. The goal should be that I should want to sit at my desk and spend 8 hours a day of having conversations with people that are responding inbound. Because once I've earned their trust, because I built rapport and showed my knowledge and everything else, then I can outsource everything else. I can say, hey, my showing assistant's going to go do this and do that and so on and so forth. The deal is created the moment that you earn their trust. And we know that consumers are only going to, on average, interview one agent. And that's the person that's going to go the deepest with them. It's going to get to their why.
Right.
And that's what we're focused on compared to all the other companies out there. But anyway, so going back to this kind of lead routing thing, I'll show you a couple things that you can do in here. And again, our platform it's not real estate specific. This is a sales and marketing kind of problem that we're trying to solve. But so a call comes in, you can Shark Tank it to everyone all at the same time. First agent to answer claims the call.
Mhm.
That call is then inserted in their Boomtown account automatically. So no reassigning through an admin. That call is recorded, it's transcribed, and so all of the notes are in there, and basically it's all taken care of in there. Now, some agents, like for example, we work with Veronica Figueroa, she's doing schedules or pods, and we're starting to see kind of the comeback of this with teams basically,
Right.
where they're telling their teams like they're going to come in and do desk time. So we built something that's called schedules in here. So schedules allows you to take a user on your team, build a custom schedule when they're going to get basically that lead flow. And then what we're able to do is reapply that back into the lead router. So as you have multiple users, let's just say something like this, I can put one of them on, well, I didn't create the schedule, but I can put them on a custom schedule so that call comes in, and if, let's say I was on Monday from 8 to 11, my phone will ring, but nobody else's will, unless they're on the 24-hour. And so you can automatically distribute your calls and text message leads, and also email leads, because call action, this lead router actually takes email leads too. We don't do stuff off of price or zip, but based on times, and we can distribute those leads. Okay. The other thing that you can do in here, if you have an ISA, so for example, we work with Chris Lindahl. So with his office, what we've done is we've got one or two of his front desk people are basically their phones are going to ring with every call that comes in off of his billboards and all of his marketing that is basically being done. If they don't answer, we have a fallback, which we set like this, and the fallback is an answering service. And that answering service, if you toggle this, don't get calls, but set it as a fallback, so this combination here, these two will ring, but if it doesn't answer, then it goes back to this person that's left over. And you can put it so it rings them too. This is up to you. I also have other agents that put themselves as the fallback, and that's how they can hold their team members accountable, because they're giving them the calls first. But if they're not getting the calls, it ends back up with the team leader, and then the team leader can go back and be like, why am I getting these calls? Kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of flexibility in just what appears like really simple kind of thing here. We also have this rule, which is 24-hour forwarding. So if a customer calls twice within 24 hours, we sticky it and send it back to the same person, because that's a better user experience. And so you can decide that either which way. And you can go, this is all, again, 100% mobile responsive. You can manage it all straight from your cell phone. Okay. Aside from that, we do some other stuff. We have an email collection tool, which is like the text tool, except that you're asking people to text their email. We like to use this for basically like events, RSVPs for events. and things like that. So we'll tell, or like, I do some speaking, so I'll do it as a speaker. So at the end of my slide deck, I just basically say text or email to this. And then as soon as they send in that text, they're going to get back my auto response. And then I attach a campaign to follow up with it. That in the agent side, we do it a lot with basically events. And again, I got some help docs for all of that stuff as well. The other thing that we do is we have these automated holiday campaigns. This just manages the problem of long-term lead nurture across the board with all leads. And the way that we've done this is that we've picked about 30 different holidays. We let you pick 6 of these a year so that you have a minimum of 6 touches. And so you toggle whatever one that you want. You can personalize the message. And the way that we deliver these is really simple. We don't make them marketing messages. These are all really highly personal, like it comes from a friend, because the goal of this message is for them to say, hey, happy St. Patrick's to you too. And now basically that customer has unknowingly engaged your agent. Now your agent can jump into that conversation and be like, hey, we talked a while back ago. I just want to catch up and see how things are going.
Right.
Or more often what's going to happen is they're going to text back, who is this? And that's the opportunity for the agent to go, this is Adam. 6 months ago, you registered on our website. Just want to touch base, see how things are going.
Right.
Okay. The way that we deliver these messages, again, I told you we don't do anything in bulk, is that we never deliver the message on the holiday. So if you take, like, let's say an Easter holiday, we're going to deliver that on the Friday before the holiday. And we start at 8 o'clock in the morning and we run until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We deliver 30 text messages per hour or 240 per day. And we do that because what we know is we're going to get 30 to 40% of those people are going to respond back to that text message. And the whole goal of sending the text is to create real-time engagement. Where most people screw up is they're going to do a big bulk and they're going to send out 500 text messages. All of a sudden they get 100 responses and it takes them 2 hours to power through everything. Well, the first guy that responded, if you respond to him 2 hours later, you completely defeated the whole purpose, because now you just look like a douche that you left him hanging.
Right.
So the other reason why we do it the Fridays before these 3-day weekends is really simple. On those 3-day weekends is when people get together with friends and family. So if I had a conversation with them on Friday, or let's say if you had 1,000 leads in here, we would actually start, because we're only doing 240 per day, we would start like 4 days before. So we'd send it on Tuesday for the upcoming weekend, which feels a little bit more natural and you stand out a little bit more. The reason why we do this is so that when the weekend comes along, there's 2 things that are going to happen on 3-day weekends. People are either going out and looking at homes if they're actively in the market because they're using that extra day. And if you talk to them on Friday, you're now really fresh and top of mind, and you might have booked yourself an appointment for that weekend. But the flip side of that is 3-day weekends is when people get together with friends and family. And this is where they're going to have food and drink, and they're going to start talking about real estate. And this is when referrals happen, because they're going to say like, man, I've been looking for homes. I'm having a really hard time trying to find something. And then your customer that you sent the text message might say, shoot, on Friday, I just talked to my agent, Adam. He's always basically on it. Let me send you his contact information, because you just exchanged a text message with him on Friday before that Saturday when that guy's at that barbecue. Right. So we're creating referrals or making you very referable at that moment in time. So that's our holiday text. And this is all done, again, it's all fully automated. Agents don't have to do anything. Right. So yeah, so other than that, you have this, real simple dashboard to track your phone calls, number of calls that you've gotten, what's the duration of those phone calls. This, you can hold it down to the agent's accountability. Some things I'll tell you that we do with this. We know there's a direct correlation between the average length of their phone calls and lead conversion. So with a lot of the teams that we work with, we started encouraging them to get like $10 to $20 gift certificates for Starbucks or whatever. And when they do their weekly meeting, everyone basically, they tell the agents, all right, who's got the longest call durations for this week? The average longest duration. And then whoever wins, they give them the $10 gift certificate, because what they're trying to do is encourage the agents to have long conversations, because long conversations, you're building trust and building rapport. If your conversation's 2 minutes, like, you're forgettable. There's no way you got to that consumer's why. The other thing that we'll do is they'll do competitions for who's got the highest answer rate. And the way that we count an answer is the call is answered and the conversation lasted at least 2 minutes. Because if it lasted 30 seconds, like, you might as well have not answered. So we'll do some stuff like that. The phone calls, like Doug Erdington, Boomtown customer, loves our stuff because he uses the call recordings for training purposes for his agents. And he's started doing this maybe about 6 to 8 months ago. And he's seen a dramatic increase in his agents' lead conversion because he started listening to the conversations, and he sends them a message. It says, hey, log into your call action account. I want you to listen to this conversation. Here's the way I would handle it, and uses it as a training opportunity. So he just listens to like 10 conversations a day from his customers, or from his agents are having with their customers, gives them a little coaching moment. Basically, he said has made a world of difference for his people. And then speaking of phone calls, I'll just, I forgot to show you this. And I know I might be showing you a lot, but I figure I only have one shot with you anyway, so I might as well show it all. We have something we call call automations. So if you talk to agents, the number one complaint is their phone is ringing and it's a bunch of spam calls. And that's because they have the same phone number everywhere. What we try and coach agents is use a dedicated phone number on your marketing piece, because if you have a phone number that's only on your direct mail, spammers are not going to find that phone number. Spammers only find the phone number because it's posted online or it's in some database somewhere that they bought. But if you're only direct mailing to consumers, that phone number never ends up in those databases. Same thing with your yard sign. Like, if the phone number is only on the yard sign, there's no way for spammers to start getting a hold of that phone. So if you think of a call, there's two statuses. It's either answered or missed. Because calls are the absolute highest intent kind of lead that you can get, we've basically built out some automations around phone calls. And I'll tell you what happens when you get a call through us. When you get a call through a call action phone number, we send you a text message before the phone rings by a second or two. And that text message is going to tell you where that call that you're about to get is going to come from. And what we tell you to do is change the ringtone on that text message. So even if you don't see the text message, just the fact that you hear a different ringtone and your phone starts to ring, you know that's a lead call. You increase the likelihood that you're going to basically answer that phone call. Right. So we tell agents, you don't need to answer every call. You just need to answer the right ones. Okay. And so when you use the tracking number on marketing pieces, which are first points of contact, those are the right calls that you need to answer. Now, should you miss a phone call, this is what call action is going to do. If you miss the call, it's going to wait about 35, 40 seconds to make it feel real. And it's just going to text that person back, hey, I just missed your call. I'm on another call now. How can I help you? Now, this seems very innocuous, but in here, I always tell every person to put their Boomtown website. The reason why is if you think the number of calls that all of your agents start getting and just general calls that are happening, and if we send back a text message to every one of those missed phone calls that contains a link to your Boomtown website, you start getting people that start clicking on that link, they start visiting that website, they start registering. Okay, so generating free, basically, website registrations off of missed phone calls. Very, very valuable. When we text, basically, how can I help you? And because you're using these phone numbers as kind of first points of contact, yard sign, direct mail marketing, you know, maybe an email flow or whatever it is, they're going to text back and say, you know, hey, Adam, I'm standing in front of your listing on 20th Street. Can you tell me what the price is? We're going to give your agents 4 minutes to respond to that text message. And this is as close as we get to AI. if the agent doesn't respond in that 4 minutes, we're just going to continue the conversation by just acknowledging the response. And we'll just say, hey, great, can I contact you around? And then we have these merge codes. Mine, I like to set it up like this. This will actually text back the time in 45 minutes from now, rounded to the nearest 5 minutes. And we do that to make it feel real. So for me right now, it's about almost 9 o'clock. So this would return back and say, can I call you around 10 o'clock? I, again, make my own life easy. If not, book a time. I just give them my Calendly link. And then we ask, should I call or text you? For your agents, the reason why this is really important is now they know what the consumer is interested in. They can look at the data append stuff. They can look at their social profile, find out if they have kids. Are they a dog person? Are they a sports person? Mentally start preparing how they're going to build rapport with that person. Get the information to answer their questions so that the very first phone call then becomes, hey, Adam, thanks for basically inquiring. Sorry, I missed your call earlier. I was in an appointment. Yes, I can get you into 20th Street. I have available times today at 2 or basically 4 o'clock, and the price is $300,000 on that. Which of those times is going to be best for you? That's a much more efficient call than the agent calling back. Hey, how can I help you? The consumer saying, I want to find out the price. Then basically he's going to say, okay, let me call you back. And then you start playing this going back and forth phone call. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. The other thing that we've done on the missed phone calls is we send this first text message, but if the consumer already hung up, because I'll give you a real world example, they're standing in front of your listing, they're looking at it on Zillow, right, or Redfin or Realtor.com or whatever. They try and call the yard sign first. Your agent doesn't answer, they hang up, they hit the call button and call somebody else, okay? So even though we're texting back, they may already be in a conversation with somebody else or trying to have a conversation with somebody else. So what we do is 45 minutes later, if they didn't respond to the first text, we're gonna send a follow-up text to the consumer saying, hey, I'm just following up again from your missed call from 45 minutes ago. How can I help you? We get about 30% of people will respond to the second text message. If they still don't respond to that, 15 minutes later, you could pre-record a voicemail that'll do now a slide broadcast to that same missed call lead. And we give you a script and everything in here. It's really simple. It's just, hey, this is Adam, missed your call from about an hour ago. I sent you a couple text messages. Give me a call when you have a chance. So now we sent 2 text messages and we drop a voicemail on them. So they see a missed call, usually gets them to call back. If they still haven't responded to that, we give you the ability to then put a long-term drip campaign that starts the following day or two and might just kind of check in on that missed call lead for the next 6 months or whatever, just occasionally, because we're trying to basically stay top of mind. Because if you use the phone numbers in the right places, that was a customer that tried to call you no matter what.
Right.
Make sense?
Yep.
The other thing we do on a phone call, again, super important. If you think that there's only 2 statuses, answered or missed, well, the answered phone calls are also very valuable. And what we've done for those is this. We can basically set up a text message that goes out after the call is completed. We give you a time. You can say, the length of the call, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 15 minutes. I like to set mine about an hour after I hang up on the phone call because I feel that the consumer feels like I'm thinking about them after the fact. Okay. You could set whatever time frame that you want in here. And then what we'll do is we're just going to validate whatever the conversation was. So again, for mine, it's just, hey, thanks for your time today. Look forward to helping you with your automation, increase your lead conversion. Just see, again, website in there. For you guys on the real estate side, this would say, thanks for your time today. I'm looking forward to helping you with your real estate needs. Adam of your Boomtown website. The reason why this is so important is if the consumer calls me, the only contact record they have is in the call log. Well, after the next 50 calls, my phone number is now gone forever unless they created a contact with me. And I send them a text message. It ends up in their text message window. Most people don't delete their text messages. And most people use their text message window almost like a second phone book, right? Because they're going to scroll through those text messages to try and find someone. So two things happen. A, we get traffic to your website. B, basically we get into the text message window, so there's a permanent record of that conversation. And then C, if it was a good conversation that lasted 5 minutes, the customer is probably going to respond back and say, hey, Adam, it was good talking to you too. I'm really excited about working with you. And mentally, what we do there is a subtle NLP kind of trick, because that relationship, when you start texting someone, naturally you feel more connected or more intimate, that relationship, because you typically only text people you know, like, and trust. So this is kind of trying to accelerate that feeling that that customer has with your agent by sending this text message. Now, what we also like to do on this is, again, send our social proof, maybe all our reviews, along with this text message, to basically get all of our contact info in there, okay? When you send an image along with the text image, I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. So this is for basically answered calls. And then the last thing that we do, again, this is just another subtle automation, you can turn it on or off, is one time only after the call is either answered or missed, we'll do this, which is, hey, by the way, to make it easier for us to connect, here's all my contact info. And this is basically the Vcard that then contains your address, your website, all of the different phone numbers, and more importantly, and I'll show you our little hack that we've done here, is we allow you to build a custom Vcard. We give you the ability to add all of the special fields. And you'll see in here, I put in here, role, include keywords, all of your different websites, your profiles, and then the notes section, which again, I'm telling you to include basically your keywords in here. The reason why this is important, if you were an agent and let's say you're in Kansas City, you would put in this, top, Kansas City realtor. And then in here, you would say in the notes section, you can say, helping you buy and sell property, homes in Kansas City and surrounding areas of such and such county. So if you think from and put your SEO hat, like basically using some keyword phrases that customers use, that customer downloads this Vcard and they're on their phone and they do the search, they use the search tool and they type in best realtor in Kansas City. The phone is going to go, wait a second, you created a contact, and in the notes it says best realtor in Kansas City. It's going to return back basically you as a contact as that search result. Okay, it's an SEO hack off of basically a phone and using the Vcard. Make sense?
Yep, that's great.
Okay, so we do that automatically as well. So again, it's call action is a compilation of a bunch of really little subtle things that make a really big difference at the end of the day. All right, so other than that, that's pretty much it. You can tag all of your leads. So beyond just the tagging at the campaign level, you can create custom tags, those push into your notes. You can filter by basically those tags. So if you wanted to be in here and I don't know, let's say if you had one called lead for sake of conversation, you can pull up your leads.
These two-way conversations, does it track in the vitals though that it counts as a two-way conversation in Boomtown? Yeah, I know it pushes the transcripts or certain notes over there, but does it count towards?
Jordan did not have an endpoint yet in Boomtown for us to basically acknowledge that the call was came in or that a text was sent.
Yeah.
And they don't have that yet, basically, because for us, we define the difference between the automation and our agent responding. And in the vitals, you would only want the agent responses being in there. Now, for example, on Follow Up Boss, they have an endpoint for the phone calls. So in their quote unquote vitals or their dashboard, we log basically all of the calls. Boomtown, not quite available yet.
All right.
All right.
What's the cost for one of these programs?
Individual user, which is going to be 2 user accounts, basically like you and ISA. Everything that I've shown you here is $269 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Teams basically are $599. That gives you 4 users.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you exceed basically the additional users, it's $49 a month. Now, we don't charge per minute for phone calls. So you unlimited phone calls, unlimited normal text messages where, you know, it's you and the customer texting back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
All of the automations, all the holiday text, that's all unlimited basically in there. The only time that we charge you overage is on the drip campaign automations that are going out, because obviously that could start to kind of scale up pretty heavily. And because they're MMS messages, they're much more expensive. So we give you a block of like, let's say 1,000 messages first. And then after that ends up being about 8 cents per touch or per follow-up attempt, which is still way, way cheaper than hiring a personal ISA that still can't scale basically. Extra phone numbers, $5 a month. If you get over 10 users, we give you some
$5 per number.
Yeah, per number for tracking purposes. Right. And again, it's just in here. So like, let's say, what's your guys' area code where you're at?
316.
One more time.
316.
Okay. So let's say 316. You could hit a search, give you available phone numbers, but we also give you the ability, like, let's say if you wanted to do, if you were doing a billboard, you want something easy to remember. Maybe you want to do a vanity search. So you could do like 999-8550 or like a direct mail piece, right? So we give you the ability to find specific numbers. And once you're with us for 3 months, if you decide like, hey, this is not going to work out, you can port your numbers and take them with you. We don't hold the phone numbers hostage.
What if I have some phone numbers that I want to bring over? We can import those, no problem.
Yeah, you can port those over. Again,
Okay.
That's all here in the help docs. If you just type in port, gives you the
Perfect.
instructions and the forms and all of that.
Okay.
You just email all of that stuff over to us. You can get toll-free numbers too. I will tell you, local numbers way outperform toll-free. Toll-free, the automatic association is that, hey, this is I'm going to be in IVR hell, right? On that text tool, you know, some people, they talk about like the ProQuest, you know, they like that 24-hour recording. You could do the same thing in call action, although I argue with everyone, it's like, how many customers have told you tell me about the property versus I want to see the property? Like, it's just more natural. Real estate is more of a visual kind of thing. But you can also include a audio file to be sent back to them, or ringless voicemail that they can hear basically. So if you want to do both the text message with the link to the website and give them an audio recording, they can basically get that text audio recording and play that recording and hear whatever your description is of that property. Okay. I'll show you our private Facebook group.
How many people's running this with a smaller team, but just operating with one account and then letting the ISA manage it?
We actually try and recommend that initially on the smaller teams.
Yeah.
Because it just tends to be easier. And even on the bigger teams, I usually try and tell everyone, just get a $269 a month account. And if you have an ISA, let the ISA basically scale up all your lead follow-up.
All right, sounds good.
Because the reality is most agents, like our product, we try to make it really simple. And that's why it's just this kind of conversation view. At the end of the day, you're just asking them to call or text, which they can already do on their cell phone. And they're already used to that. And the only extra thing that we're trying to coach them on is when you're done with the phone call, we just want you to go to drip campaign and assign the next drip campaign right away. Now, I can tell you, we still struggle with agents just to get them to do that one extra task. And you already know, you've worked with a bunch of agents. You know, a lot of them are not tech savvy basically. And they're going to do whatever they're going to do because they're high D's and high I's and they don't care about any of that stuff, right? But we try to simplify it as much as we can, although there's lots of settings in call action. This is all like a one-time setup between you and me, maybe 1 hour. And then after that, it just kind of runs. But I'll show you some things that we're doing kind of in call action that we're kind of interesting here. This was a more recent one. So this is an old one that we did. So these are personal ideas that I share in our group because I want to give our guys a heads up that we know that open houses are some of the best leads that you can get, but agents hate doing open houses. So here's a technique that you could use our text tool, which is a sign that just says free list of today's open houses. Looks like an open house sign. They text the word list. You send back basically the pre-formatted search on your Boomtown website. And now you're collecting leads of people that are driving around looking for open houses. Really, really powerful way to basically generate free leads or, you know, the cost of a corrugated sign. I have agents doing this on bandit signs too. But on the sign writer, let me show you one.
Can you add me to that group?
Yeah, it's usually only for our paying customers. I'm really stingy about it. So because this is where I try and do all of the best stuff, but go ahead and send me a request. It's call action real estate mastermind. On the sign writer, we started doing these ones, instead of like text for info on something, we basically did this, which is open house every day. And this is actually working really, really well because the consumer doesn't want to call the agent, but they want to see the inside of the house, but they don't want to be sold. So if they think that it's a quote unquote open house, at that moment in time, they're much more likely to basically send the message. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing on this, and I have the entire instructions here, is we create a Calendly link to a calendar, and we basically block off a half an hour per day. And it's only the soonest that they can book the appointment is we just basically put 3 hours in advance, right? So that way gives your agent time to set something up with the seller. And so what happens, consumer sends in the text, you've now captured the lead, you know that they want to schedule a showing to see the inside of the house. They try and self-book basically a calendar appointment on there because you're telling them here's when the next available showing is. They self-book, now you basically just set up a showing appointment with your seller under the disguise of it's an open house. So then you're just there, you're like, hey, welcome. We're doing, you know, a half an hour open house today. Thanks for showing up. And that's basically it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Super powerful way. It's a little bit guerrilla marketing, but I mean, you know, at the cost that leads are right now, this is some stuff that really makes a big difference.
Right.
Here's the other things that we've done. I'm sorry. The other thing we've done is this same sign on your way out of your open house. So basically it's by the front door, but in reverse. So as they're walking outside of the house, we say, hey, if you want to go look at other open houses, just text this and we'll give you a list of all the other open houses that are in the surrounding area too. Okay. Odds are, you know, it's less than 8% of people buy the house at the open house. And so all you're doing is trying to provide value. Then you're going to be able to attach the drip on there. The other thing that we've done, and these are, again, our other ideas, is we've done little stand-up cardboard things inside of the house that says, get a free 35, you know, get a free report of this property. What it is basically is a CMA. Print a CMA, post it in the cloud, do a link. They text basically to get that CMA, and then usually we have the agents take a copy of the CMA there. So what they do is as they're kind of walking in saying, hey, welcome to the open house, you know, we were giving out these reports of this property. So if you're interested in it, we don't have any more left, but you can go ahead and text it and it'll send you back this report via a link if you're interested in it. And, you know, you have them rifle through basically the report and show the comps and the plot map and, you know, whatever information that you want in that CMA. Another good way to kind of generate leads in-house while you're in the thing. We also have used it for basically raffles and stuff like that, basically where, you know, you just kind of randomly pick a name and go from there. So in our Facebook group, we do lots of different stuff like that. Yeah, so that's basically it. Adam, are you a coach for Boomtown?
No, I've coached hundreds.
Oh, okay.
Every single coach for them right now, I've personally coached before. So
Oh, it's like Aaron and Doug and Brandon, all those guys then. Okay.
coached all those guys personally. Um, I mean, I had a coaching company. I didn't market, but it was just off referral base. But you know, I'm not that passionate in.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
The other thing.
I was a couple years ago, but it's just it gets old.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. Because you start going like, this is how you reset your email password.
Yeah. We coached a lot on ISA stuff, a lot on conversion,
Yeah.
a lot on the team model.
Yeah.
You know, I've added 400 agents in almost 16 months to the team and network, so I stay pretty busy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, getting people up and going. This solves a few of my issues rebuilding with Brian, at least here in Wichita, on a couple different fronts.
Yeah.
You have somebody.
I think you could utilize it for your recruiting too. I mean, just.
Yeah, like we have, you know, obviously some EXP customers and stuff like that. And so we've used this text tool, like, what is EXP? Like, what's everyone talking about? And then you text them back basically the video and all of that. And then you put the drip and you follow up with them. Like, if that's your thing, like you can do it that way. Some other use cases with this text tool in your Zillow profile, you could put a phone number in there, right? So what happens, we put a text tool saying, if you're a buyer, learn about the, you know, Brian and Adam VIP buyers program saving you $1,000, text this code, and you put that in your Zillow profile. And because they're looking at the reviews, because they're trying to decide if they want to work with someone, they may not be ready to talk to you, but if you can send them that text, you can do that. Another use case, we work, you guys, since you wholesale properties, might know New Western. You guys know New Western?
I don't.
No? They're a big national wholesaler. If you look at New Western, basically, they're a big national wholesaler. They use our phone numbers on all of the direct mail pieces, all of their marketing, and on everything. They use the text for info on their postcards, because if you think of the way that you sort basically your mail, is that you walk in your house with your mail and you have your cell phone next to you. And if I get a postcard that says text sell to a phone number to learn about, you know, getting an all cash offer, versus trying to, it's going to be much more likely you're going to get that than someone basically doing visit www.mycashoffer.com on your cell phone. Does that make sense? So we're doing it via direct mail and doing that. So actually, I think here in my private group, Aaron, I'll show you like real life success story here. So this guy did this.
Are you running a monthly call or anything like that?
Huh?
Are you running like a monthly mastermind call to keep people updated?
Yeah, I post everything in here. I do a bunch of Facebook Lives in here. I mean, I do stuff like that. I'm getting ready to probably start doing like not necessarily a mastermind, but what I'm thinking of doing is accountability groups, like trying to get my users working together. And then I just kind of lead each one of those groups because that gives us basically scale, because I don't want to be like Boomtown. I don't want to have to manage 200 customer support people, right? And that's expensive to do. So I'm trying to do as much of it as self-help as possible. But just going back as to one of these examples on the postcards, here, please RSVP with a text, blah, blah, blah. All you need to do is text air show to this. He didn't do it quite in the right way that I would normally do, because I feel like it's a little bit convoluted. But here's his direct mail piece. Jesse, we've had over 50 people RSVP, and we've used this in our farm, sent out 4 days. So pretty good outcome from a direct mail piece to get 50 RSVPs almost instantaneously. And now he's got all of that property data on each one of those people, because this is just a general farm area. And now basically he's putting them all on the holiday campaigns, and they're all getting a drip campaign. Remember I showed you on our drip campaign that end date? It's for this kind of stuff, because it doesn't matter when they start, it's going to do a hard ending. So you can pick the last 2 days to remind them of the event as it's basically coming up.
Right. Well,
So,
lender pays for shout. My lender pays for shout.
Shout Boss?
Yeah, and I'm gonna be meeting him on Monday.
Yeah,
To work on configuring that, but I just texted him a few minutes ago and said you might want to drop that, and we just split this. And
yeah. I mean, Shout Boss is the same thing as that one little component of our texting.
Right.
But Shout Boss, you can't text images. Now, the image thing is so critical. Like, I'm going to stop sharing now because it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
The image texting is so important because I'll just ask you this. How often have you ever had customers texting you screenshots of properties they found on Zillow or even on Boomtown?
It's less than probably 5%. Some will, but most won't.
Right. But the ones that will, are pretty interested. They're telling you exactly which property they're interested in.
Right.
Boomtown, you don't get those text messages. Shout Boss, you won't get those text messages. You don't get any images. You don't get anything.
Right.
You don't even know.
Right.
So the customer is most motivated telling you, I want to see this property. You're not getting those text messages.
Right. All right.
So,
I just texted him, said that I know Jim Chamberlain too. He's tried to get me to promote it and do some other things with him.
oh yeah.
I got a lender. I've been letting it kind of run its course. I looked at what he was doing tied into our website. It's pretty generic, but
yeah.
I just told him that this is has way more benefits than what he's running. So
yeah, the other thing that you have to look at on Shout Boss and the guys at Agent Legend, I know all of these guys too.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to basically get the person to the first conversation. Okay. And meaning when they respond, both Shout Boss and the other one is you don't know who's responding or what they're responding to, which campaign, because both of those, they use the same phone number. The way that both of those work is that you build a campaign, you upload a CSV file of a bunch of different contacts, and then you attach the campaign to that group of contacts.
Right.
So what happens, you might have 10 campaigns running, but it's all through the same phone number. So when the person responds back, in Shout Boss, it comes from the phone number and you have no idea who's responding. Agent Legend is the same thing.
Right.
So there's no context. So when they answer, you have to be a little bit quicker on your feet. And then, as I mentioned to you, the real value in all of this stuff, once you get to the first conversation, that's just to identify those first 5% that are going to convert right away. All of the work is what happens after is with the other 95. Like, it's that ability to follow up on everything else and keep that conversation moving forward is the real value. And you can't do that with Shout Boss or basically Agent Legend, because the only way you could do it is you have to download all of the data, the ones that responded, build a new campaign of the ones that responded that were not interested, and then reassign a new campaign in bulk to everyone instead of everything one-to-one.
Right. No, I see that for sure.
So they have a part of the product. It's just not a solution. We're a toolbox. They're a tool.
That's funny.
And I guess that sounds bad, but I didn't mean it bad in that way.
It is.
But, do a demo with their product and you'll see the difference right away. And I will tell you one thing on call action, basically. You guys have big networks. We don't have an affiliate program, but I do have what we call a refer and earn program, which is basically you can create your own dedicated links. You share them over with other people and we just give you credits against your own account.
Gotcha.
Okay. But we don't do like a reseller account, because like we had Tom Ferry and all the coaches, they all want a reseller crap. But I'm like, no, because we need the recommendation from users to be because it's valuable, not because you're going to make money. Because we're best in class. Like, that's why. So, but we do try and reward our existing users by giving them this ability to, if they got a friend that's like, hey man, this thing is really good, you should check it out. Like, we give them an extended basically trial, and then you will get credits against your account. So if you got a big network like that, you could end up being free.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time today, Jesse. Give me
no problem.
a week or two. I'm actually heading with my lender on Monday. I mean, I'm not doing some stuff in Shopboss if we're going to go this way. So I told him I'd keep the video, send it over to him.
Yeah.
I think this
the things that are different, it's just me as a founder of this company. I mean, I was in mortgage for 24 years. I had a bunch of websites in 1997 and started doing online lead gen. And by 2000, I was selling about 300 loan applications a day to Lending Tree. So a lot of these pain points, it's just because I've gone through them. So I've been able to create a product because I really, really understand the problem intimately. So all these little nuances that, that don't seem like a big deal. That's why, the product is fairly well polished when you kind of look at it compared to other things. And this is why I'm saying that we're the toolbox versus just the tool. Because we don't just do one thing. We try and think of all of the little things that happen after that one thing, right? We're trying to solve the problem, which is let's have more conversations. That's the overall scope of what we're trying to do, because that's where all of the money is made. So,
I mean, I agree. So
yep. All right, guys. Again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time as well. You've got your own recording, so I don't need to send you anything. So,
hey, thanks a lot, Jesse. Hey, are you going to Trends? What's it called? Their conference?
Which one? Gathering of the Eagles?
I don't remember which
Real
one.
Trends?
Real Trends. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't bought my ticket yet, but I might go to Real Trend ones. I've been traveling so much. I'm trying to just
You've been on the road a ton.
Yeah. Cause I was just like at Next Level Agent last week with, Kevin, Fred, and Cody and those guys basically, which was actually a pretty good conference too. But yeah, I'll probably go to Real Trends just because that's more of a brokerage level. And that's we're going more into kind of enterprise kind of customers, because we have a couple of them already. And we work like Robert Slack and those guys basically. And I actually met Robert Slack at Gathering of the Eagles. So I figure I should probably go back again, because, that was a pretty good size account for us, considering he runs, all 300 of his agents have an account on Call Action. And we basically doubled his agent's conversion rate. So last year he made $20 million off of $5 million worth of leads from realtor.com. And now this year they're on pace to do 40 million. Just because we doubled the conversations, because they were connecting at 32% of their contacts with a full-time call center. And with our automated drip campaigns, they're at 68% contact rate on all of their leads. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was just asking because I'm debating on going to that. I got a group that I've been working with that are going to be there. So I thought,
on the brokerage level, it's definitely an interesting. Have you been?
No, I got a group that is independent brokerage. I'm trying to get to EXP that are like debating on software, whether to come to EXP or buy software. And they said they were going to be there, and I really like the Real Trends. So I thought it may be worth going to.
It's definitely worth it because, you get a lot of the independent brokerages that are looking to try and kind of sell basically. They're trying to figure out like, what's the value of my brokerage? Can I get acquired? So you're talking a lot more of those kind of conversations. So, for you, I think it would make a lot of sense because you can have those kind of conversations that are really high level because you already have the experience from your guys' previous brokerage. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for you definitely for you to go. So, but yeah, if you go, I'll probably be there. I know Gary Ashton's going to be there. That was part of the reason I was thinking of going. He's one of my customers too. So,
well, yeah, if you end up going, let me know. Cause I'm just been trying to find somebody who else is going. I haven't talked to Bailey about it at all, but, and then, what other one are we going to? EXPs. I don't know if you're going to that or not.
I might go to EXP. I actually know Glenn personally, and I've been trying to make Call Action part of the EXP platform. So
that'd be handy.
Yeah, so there's a chance that I might end up going to the next EXP conference, basically. So, But
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, we'll for sure be at that one. So maybe we'll see you there. But I'm sure we'll talk to you well before that.
Okay.
But,
Well,
all
sounds
right, man.
good. Let me know whatever you need, guys. And then, do you want me to add you both to that private Facebook group, or?
Yeah, I already filled out that short.
Okay. Sweet,
yeah,
man.
I have a message. What was the name of it again?
Call Action Real Estate Mastermind. Just type in Call Action, you'll find it. There's only either a public group or my public page or our private group. So it's either or.
I'll probably be in touch towards the end of next week or the beginning of the week after that.
Yeah, no problem, man. Sounds good. Just let me know anything you need, Adam. And if you go to help.callaction.co on our website, you'll see all of our help docs and those workflows and all that stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So if you want to poke around some of that stuff too, you'll see some other kind of use cases. But if you have a specific problem you're trying to solve, like what you were talking about earlier, with that's really labor intensive, let me know, because there's probably a way that we can automate, a lot of that.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks,
man. Have a great day. Bye.